So let's get this kicked off. So today we're exploring three prominent challenges faced by IT directors and managers. The first challenge, operational inefficiencies stemming from manual processes and lack of tools. The second challenge, overwhelmed teams with limited resources and expertise. And the third challenge, overspending on IT expenses with limited or inaccurate reporting of IT vendors, assets, and spend. Joining me to share experience on overcoming these challenges is Michael Matelli, CIO at Monterey Mushrooms. With 9 mushroom farms located across North America, Monterey Mushrooms produces more than 200 million pounds of fresh mushrooms every year. Welcome, Michael.
Good morning.
And I also have Monterey Mushroom Solution Partner, Gary Storm, President and CEO of vCom Solution, a company solving planning and procurement, operations management, and expense management challenges. So with that intro, let's get right after it. Michael, I want to start with you, if you don't mind. I want to understand, before you partnered with vCom, what were the challenges that Monterey Mushrooms was facing?
The main challenge we had is, as everybody probably knows, the telecommunication industry as a whole has changed a lot in the last couple decades. And so we've been partnered with vCom for almost 20 years now. And originally, our telecom expenses were out of control, and we had no idea where they were, particularly with our logistical challenges of facilities all over the country and a little bit over in Europe and Mexico. So keeping track of your bills was a challenge, and trying to negotiate better rates was even more challenging. So that's when we associated ourselves with vCom. They presented a nice solution, and we've had a nice relationship all these years.
Fantastic. Well, a 20-year relationship is good. That's just the time alone kind of speaks to that. So outside of just not having the spend control, I think everybody kind of gets what the pain point is on that. You touched on something interesting, and that was around negotiations. And so how did gaining control over the expenses help you with or help you support negotiations?
Well, we're a private company. We're relatively small to mid-size, so we weren't in a position to have a dedicated person to do this for us, like maybe some large companies do. So it was always a challenge to get out there and find out who all the players were and negotiate between the different suppliers. So getting with vCom, they basically had the relationships already in mind, and they went to bat for us whenever we had a need to improve our communications. And they've really helped tremendously in terms of maintaining our costs.
Mm-hmm. Real good.
Sorry about that.
Good. No, it happens. We're cooking with gas here. It's live. Yeah, no, that's good. Having bench strength to be able to support you in those areas in which you didn't have the resources committed, I think gives you a clear advantage, right? Not just in the negotiations, but kind of all around the horn, supporting all the technology management. Gary, maybe I'll hand the ball off to you, and I'd be kind of interested in your perspective on how you helped Michael and Monterey Mushrooms solve these challenges.
Yeah, I mean, as Mike said, the companies we work with, Monterey Mushrooms, any other companies, they lack the resources to kind of manage all the different aspects of the life cycle of an IT asset, right? Whether it's designing it or sourcing it, or the contract negotiations, or managing the orders, or the inventory, or paying the bills, right? We really provide a lot of SMEs across all those different buckets of the life cycle. And we also have a software platform. And I think that's what we find out in the marketplace is really what's lacking is one software platform to kind of manage all aspects of this life cycle. And Monterey Mushroom didn't have a software platform. We had 170 extra people to help. We think those relationships are a real win. Let Monterey Mushrooms go out and do what they do best, grow and deliver mushrooms, right? We're in this business. This is what we do. And our customers just aren't in this every day like we are. So to Mike's point in negotiating, we're negotiating on behalf of our 500 plus customers every single day. A customer may have to negotiate with the vendors once every year, once every 3 years. So we can bring some community intelligence to that aspect of the contract negotiation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It reduces the learning curve to as close to zero as you can get, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just there's a speed and efficiency here, and it's something that's hard to replicate. For us, it's really simple, right? We believe fundamentally you need a software to do this. And we believe you need subject matter experts across all aspects of the life cycle. And we're here to help. That's kind of, and if the customer would like some help, we'd love to help. And everybody just walks through that process. How big of a pain point is this for them? Do they need help? Are they lacking resources? We have found for 20 years now working with Mike or any other customer, IT resources seems like they're constantly strained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that do more with less and less and less is always kind of the mantra.
Right.
I think people are banging on that drum quite a bit, right? Well, I'm kind of interested here, Gary. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit. You mentioned the word life cycle a couple of times, and anytime I hear life cycle, something pops into my head, and that may not be the same thing that pops into somebody else's head, right? And there could be a lot of things included in that life cycle. So talk to me a little bit about the approach and what life cycle means to vCom and how you've applied that to the Monterey mushroom environment.
Yeah, so our belief system is that slide up, Tim? Or
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So our belief system follows this wheel, which is that there's actually 9 jobs or 9 problems associated with managing a recurring IT asset, a recurring IT expense, a recurring IT service. That there's 9 jobs to do or 9 problems that the customer has to be aware of to really fundamentally manage the life cycle of it, right? You could do pieces of this and get by, but we have this core belief that this is the only way to really make sure you manage all aspects of it. And it's, as you said, it's kind of bucketized 3 ways: planning and procurement. And we have 3 modules in that, which are design, sourcing, and contracts. And then we have operations management, which is typically the heavy lifting of this stuff. Someone has to order it, somebody has to inventory it, and someone has to service it. And so we run a 24/7 NOC for that piece. And then the last piece is expense management. Again, the last 3 modules there is somebody's got to pay it, right? You got to get an invoice, pay it. Somebody's got to cost allocate it to the right business unit, right employee, right? However they want to cost allocate all these things. This is typically something that's skipped because it's hard to do without software. And then somebody's got to analyze all this spend, right? And then it produces all these lifecycle, produces all this data that delivers a bunch of information so our customers can make better decisions faster. But our belief is somebody has to do all these. If you're not doing it, you're not totally managing the life cycle. And it's hard to do without a platform or an extra 170 people.
Right. Starting from scratch and trying to do it on your own would be doable, but not efficient or effective.
Yeah, I mean, some of the Fortune 1000 have attempted this, as you know, Tim, and follow. Yeah. For the mid-market or large SMB or whatever, they just don't have the resources to do this. And what's not totally understood is that there are solutions out there in the marketplace. We always like to talk about, it's not necessarily a plug for vCom, it's just a plug for the industry. Go look at this industry, go do something. There are platforms and managed services out there to help you get your hands around this spend. And I encourage anybody in the market to kind of, go out and look for help here, because there's a lot of opportunity to help get your hands around this bucket of spend.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, I want to pivot back to you, and particularly with 20 years of experience partnering with vCom under your belt. I'm sure that there are a lot of different value propositions that have come out at different points in time. And you mentioned that initially it was spend being out of control and not having the resources to be able to negotiate effectively, and and having a multi-country footprint. Maybe thinking back over the past 20 years, what are some other benefits that you've gained? Maybe even some unintended benefits, right? Things that happened that helped Monterey mushrooms that maybe you hadn't planned for, but occurred.
Well, I think I started off by saying that this landscape has changed quite a bit in the last 20, 30 years, and as a result, we didn't to coin a phrase that's used a lot these days, we didn't know what we didn't know. So having a partner in vCom helped educate us, help in terms of what our options were, whether it become, voice over IP when you get rid of PBXs and moving into that venue. That they made us do our jobs better by educating us on what our options were in this area, in all these areas. And that was really invaluable, and one of the main reasons that we're still here with them and taking advantage of it. The other thing I might say, if you don't mind, to play off of this 9 phases that they've come up with, we use vCom to source our needs as much as possible, but sometimes they don't have. We're in rather rural areas, so there's a lot of times when we have things that are not readily available or not things that vCom can source directly, but their software solution allows us to commingle stuff that we negotiate on the side along with theirs, so they keep track of our inventory that we may not have sourced through them. And having everything in one spot with their vManager solution is just invaluable. Whenever management needs answers to certain questions, I can get to them virtually immediately by going that. And we give them access, we give our end users access to that same analytic information, and it's proved invaluable, to say the least.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a couple of things there that I think everybody in the audience should be thinking about, and that is that while technology evolves and there's new solutions, new applications, so on and so forth, right? That's never going to stop, right? I mean, the future of tomorrow is today. Is that what the phrase is? But there's going to be something else, right? Like when we now we're in voice over IP, we're in SD-LAN or SD-WAN worlds and things like that. That's not going to be the end of the evolution. And so having a partner that can help provide insights of what's happened with other customers, what you might be thinking about, where you should be looking, things like that, that's great. But I also love this point about being able to create that single view independent of what the source of the goods and services are, right? Having a complete inventory is probably, that's the holy grail of being able to manage your technology, both from a spend perspective and a planning perspective and so on and so forth. So I really appreciate that point. I think a lot of the audience will as well.
If I may real quickly just to elaborate on that, one of the
Please.
things that I'm challenged with just from a business analytics standpoint that we provide here is I'm looking to provide the business with one source of truth. I'm actually able to do it better with vCom than sometimes I am with our own internal ERP systems.
That's fantastic, because it probably, not probably, but you're going to be more confident with the information that's being distilled out of the system, but then everybody else within the org that you're sharing it with is going to have more confidence because there's more reality to the data, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And those are pain points that I think a lot of folks are trying to overcome. What is that source of truth? What is the, how confident am I in the data and those things? So that's a good point. So, one of the other things I was kind of interested in, and I'll also share, I want to remind the audience, if you have any questions for Michael, for Gary, please feel free to post them in the chat. We'll be picking them up here in a few minutes as we get towards the end of this segment. Pardon me. So again, I'm asking you to think back 20 years. So, and I don't remember what I had for lunch a week ago, but maybe talk to me about, once you made the decision to go with vCom, what did onboarding and implementation look like? How was that process for you?
It was a progressive. It started off with I needed a single T1. And they were, so I went to them and.
Wow, you are really dating yourselves, Mike.
I know
T1s, I love it.
I know it. Well, I avoided saying frame relay, so. Anyway, so we had an immediate need. We got that, and then it just kept building on from there afterwards. So it was very easy. I think that first order we placed with them occurred within a week of starting our talk, and we had the circuit in within a month. Which was a shorter period than normal back then. And then we just kind of rode the wave with them as they continued to build on their model, and we were just riding alongside with them. It was extremely easy, to say the least. And they're very flexible in terms of, and they provide some services here that we use all of these functions to varying degrees. And if the situation arises that maybe we don't take advantage, like we don't use their payment system. Sorry, Gary, but that's just a cash management thing that our finance team decided they didn't want to go with right now. But we still have visibility for everything we pay, even if it's with our system or through payment auto pay process through vCom. So they're very flexible and they work with us.
Got it. No, I think that's a good thing for folks to keep in mind. And maybe Gary, I'll go back to the life cycle question, kind of a piggyback question based upon what Michael just said. You know, you have these 3 buckets, these 9 phases of the problems that vCom solves. Talk to me a little bit about how you would, how you start an engagement with the customer. Or maybe it's not the same thing. Maybe it's many different ways that happens. But what are the most common ways in which you begin to support a customer outside of what Michael had shared?
Yeah, a common way is what Michael said. If they want to source something, you know. One of the things we do is we manage commodity spend, right? Circuits, mobile service plan, UCAS licensing. This stuff has been somewhat commoditized. And we certainly don't want people to overpay on commodity spend. But one way to come in is through sourcing or through design, which we run a buyer's journey. They want to go out and look at UCAS, and we'll go interview, the 20 players and build vendor scorecards and narrowed it down. So very, very normal process would be to come in through planning procurement. But we've brought customers in from many different areas. If we're talking to finance first, it may be invoice management is their first thing. Let us just get all these invoices in the software to kind of understand better what we're paying to who and why. And we've started several of our customers on the invoice side. And we've also had some customers come in just on the operations side, like just be my 24/7 knock, like taking over my retail environment. I already have these 30 circuits out there, or these 500 mobile service plans. Just take over managing that, and it's a much more operations management is our entry. So we can enter anywhere on the circuit. We'll what we like to say, we follow the pain. We'll go to the customer. Where's your pain? What can we help with? Let's start there. There's a lot to chew here, as Michael said, and Michael's grown with us over the years. He said he started with network. We then took over managing his mobile environment, and we then took over managing his UCAS environment. So it's changed on the technology, but also the flow of the modules. So we will really go to where your needs are. There's a lot we don't really onboard you like we're going to manage every technology on all 9 buckets. That's a lot. So let's start with something. Where's your pain? Is it mobility? Is it network? Is it invoices? Is it you have a new project? And we'll just go to where you want us to go. Yeah,
I think that's really important for the audience to understand. One of the conversations that I have with a lot of businesses that they either don't have a solution or they've got the killer workbook. We've all been there, right? Multiple tabs, pivot tables, all that kind of stuff, and that's not really effective for managing an environment of any size. But one of the challenges that I hear, or the objections I hear from a lot of organizations is, the vendor is going to force me into decisions that I don't want to make yet, or it's going to be too rigid, or my favorite comment is, I haven't chosen to partner with a vendor like vCom because the vendor told me that I had to do it their way. And so I want to really call that out, because I think that the flexibility, the multiple entry points, the follow the pain, I love that message. I think that those are all very welcoming ideas that for folks that maybe haven't, they put off partnering with a vendor like vCom just simply because they thought it would be too much or too complicated or too painful itself, or whatever the case is. So I think you're highlighting.
No, I absolutely agree, Tim. I think sometimes this is why status quo is so prevalent. It can be a lot, right? Wait a sec, this is a massive decision, and so I'm just going to shelve it. Where we would encourage, let's dummy down this decision. Let's Let's uncomplicate this decision. Let's just start somewhere. As Mike said, this is a process. We're looking to partner with our clients. We're not trying to sell something. We're going to partner with you, and we're going to partner with you the long term. So this takes a while. This is what we like to say. It's more like a lifestyle diet, right? It's a life changing. It's not just this one little thing. It's like we're changing the way you view managing this stuff, and hopefully embracing a partnership that has a platform and extra resources to help you do it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, we've got just a couple of minutes left. I did have a question here from the audience, but before I do that, Michael, any other thoughts you'd like to share with the audience about your experience with vCom?
Other than it's one of the better decisions I've made in my career is getting a handle on this, and I don't mean to minimize these tools or these resources, but it really makes it easy for us to focus in on what we do best. I think Gary referred to that earlier. Is that that's been very helpful, to say the least.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. So the question that came in, and if anybody else has one, please feel free to drop it in here. And this is probably for Gary, I'm going to guess here. So what plans does vCom have for the future in terms of your solution or offerings or whatever the case might be?
Yeah, so the world has changed, as Michael commented to several times. We started managing your voice data and internet, then we moved to mobility, obviously then UCaaS and collaboration tools, CCaaS. We're managing SaaS licensing now. We're managing the cloud. So SaaS and cloud are somewhat new for us, and I think massive opportunities. But everything has moved really to a recurring IT. It's recurring. There's no more CapEx. Everything's become OpEx. So even hardware, whether it's mobile devices or SD-WAN, it seems like obviously software, cloud, everything has moved to a operational expense and not a CapEx. And that just bodes more well into needing to manage it. Someone's got to manage onboarding this stuff. But even more interestingly, somebody's got to manage offboarding this stuff, because that's what typically happens is unmanaged. There's a lot of underutilized services out there, or totally unused services. And so it's not the old world of you buy an asset, make one decision and depreciate it. There's an operational expense every month you got to keep track of. Yeah. So just to answer that maybe better, following the trends. We're technology agnostic, we're vendor agnostic. Everything we've done has been driven by our customers, whether it's hey, can you help us with mobile? Can you help us with UCaaS? Can you help us with our Microsoft licensing? That's all been driven by the customer, and we build around that.
Yeah, real good. Staying on top of the trends and maybe a bit ahead of them, right? So, one other question popped in here. Slightly technical question, but we'll throw it out to you anyway. It's how many invoice languages do you support from an invoice ingestion perspective?
Yeah, that was way above my pay grade. No.
Okay, fair enough.
If he means languages like European and Asian, we are a domestic first player. So we are not. If you're a big international presence and you need to pull in China telecom invoices. Now a lot of these we've done that you can get in U.S., but we are a domestic first. So we support all different kinds of ways to pull invoices. EDI, we built thousands of PDF readers, but on the language side, it's really more, to be honest, it's not a language issue, it's a currency issue. That's the what we don't do from an international perspective. It's more of a currency issue. Okay,
fair enough. Great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate Michael sharing your journey with vCom, and Gary, appreciate you sharing not only how you've helped Monterey Mushrooms, but kind of what your view of the world is and how you can support others. So it's been very enlightening, and appreciate all the insights you provided today.
Thanks, Tim, and appreciate you guys doing this and helping helping create market awareness. There are tools and teams out there to help.
Absolutely, there are. Have a great rest of your day, gentlemen. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, guys.